Okay, well, welcome everyone. As you're joining, if you could please see the bottom of the page, and we have a poll. We would like to know kind of where you're at in the program when you plan on taking the comp exam. Just for our information purposes, we hold one of these term now for everybody, and it's always good to be prepared. So appreciate your participation in the poll. And we'll go ahead and get started. It's right at noon. Just we plan to keep this pretty brief, so you can get back to your lunch hour and the rest of your day. I know everyone's pretty busy. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, welcome to the MSOM Comp Exam Information Session. My name is Karin Hickenbotham. I'm the Program Manager in the MSOM department. Along with me today, I have Carol Altum, Assistant Director of the MSOM program. And I've also had Professor Leonard Nethercutt, added him as the moderator. Both of these individuals serve on the Comp Exam Committee and could be sitting in on your exam. So they are here to help me answer very specific questions or follow up with more detail during the presentation. So appreciate both of you being with us today. If you could please hold all questions until the end, you will have a chance to type them in the chat box. We really please ask you not to use the raised hand feature during the presentation. It does create a distraction for the presenters. And again, we will be here throughout the hour to answer any and all questions. So jot them down, start typing in the chat box as you're listening to the presentation. That way you don't lose it or forget it, because I know it happens. So, okay. So let's talk about the comprehensive exam. Okay, who is eligible? So for eligibility, you must have completed at least 8 5,000 level OMGT courses. This includes all 4 of the core classes. Okay, this is Intro to Operations Management, Project Management, Strategic Management, Finance, or Economic Decision Making. These core classes must be completed with a grade of B or better. You need to have satisfied all 4 prerequisite requirements and a 3-point GPA or higher on all graduate level OMG courses in order to sit for the comprehensive exam as well as for graduation. So the comp exam has 2 parts. The first part is a presentation/video. Then you will have the oral interview. So let's take a closer look at each of those parts, okay? The presentation and the video, your first step is you're going to apply for the comp exam, and this can be found on our website. I'm sure I know I do with my students, and we've got a couple advisors here on. Welcome, Marge. Welcome, Lisa. They send out links and reminders in order for you to apply for the comp exam. So really reach out to your advisor for any information on this. But again, your first step is going to apply for the comp exam, and your advisor will they will examine your eligibility. Once that's confirmed, you'll be added to the Blackboard course. In the Blackboard course, this is where you will have detailed information about how to prepare and how to submit your presentation and video. But again, any questions that you have, please feel free to reach your advisor for clarification. So in the presentation/video, this must be uploaded by the exam deadline and then approved by the committee before you can actually schedule your oral exam interview. So for example, if your presentation and video are uploaded to Blackboard and accepted before June 11th, you can schedule your exam for any open time on the June 18th or later open exam date. The oral interview, this is scheduled on a first come, first served basis. You need to submit it early in order to schedule the exam and for the date that you want. The later you submit, the less interview time slots you have to choose from. So submitting materials to Blackboard by the due date below meaning on the website, does not guarantee that the exam time is actually going to be open. So for the oral interview, it's going to be about 20 minutes, no more than 20 minutes. They are on a very strict schedule. For instance, there could be back-to-back comp exams scheduled from 1 to 1:20, 1:20 to 1:40, and 1:40 to 2 p.m. So as a courtesy to all involved, especially the committee's members and the participants, including yourself, your time is very valuable. So it is sometimes it may go a minute or 2 over if there's scheduling issues or video issues, connection issues, but for the most part, it is on a strict timeline. There will be 3 professors sitting in on who sit on the committee, and in our previous information session, a student had asked that which committee members are going to be sitting in on my interview, and it's very tough to tell. Like I said, everyone's time is very valuable. There are 6 committee members, and it's not necessarily going to be, the professors that you have had, in the past through your program. We've got Dr. Greg Parnell, who's the director of the program, Carol Altum, who's sitting here in the session with us as assistant director. Instructor Leonard Nethercutt is also on the committee, as well as Dr. Carrie Beam, Dr. Rich Ham, and our newest addition to our faculty, Dr. Rocky Gay. So again, excuse me, and I've left one person off, Professor Mindy Hunthrop, who is the assistant director to faculty development. So any of those people could be in on your comp exam. It's just a matter of who's available at that time that you have signed up for. We will ask follow-up questions to your video and presentation that you submitted. You will know if you passed or not immediately after all the questions are answered. So because this is a virtual meeting, since we're not meeting in person right now for all students, then basically the committee members deliberate in the chat box privately. You will pretty much immediately know whether or not you passed. So some helpful resources, I mentioned our website. This is where you will find the link to apply for the comprehensive exam. It's operations-management.uark.edu. But again, please read all correspondence from your advisors, because I'm sure they include these links and detailed instructions on how the process is, how to move forward in the process. So some of the tips and tricks that we have for you in your video, keep your intro and bio to about 1 to 2 minutes, because the the presentation is on the excuse me, your presentation video is only going to be 10 minutes. There's a time limit. And so you don't want to spend most of your time on the front end on your intro and your bio, because you do really need to get to the 10 concepts and explain in detail in order for the committee to have follow-up questions for you. During the oral interview, be ready to discuss any concepts, events, information that you mentioned in your PowerPoint slide and video presentation. Um, you know, if you're going to mention something, then you can bet that that's going to be followed up on. So make sure that you are ready to elaborate on anything that you do include in your presentation. Relate the course concepts to your work-related projects, assignments, or responsibilities. This is going to be easier for you to remember. Remember the concepts, and if you can relate to them, something familiar, right? Use terms from your courses. Be able to talk about the 10 operations management decisions. And the oral interview is only 20 minutes, so just relax and answer the questions as best you can. This is not we're trying to get you a moment. We are only going to ask you questions that you specifically mentioned in your presentation video. Okay, we're not going to try to trick you. It's a very positive experience. We love listening to students' stories and what they learned and how they applied it, because it helps us improve from term to term as far as what we're offering and what students are needing, especially during these current times. So here's a couple of examples that we're going to go through, and I'm going to have Carol and Leonard possibly follow up on some specifics that they have witnessed in certain exams that maybe you might want to try to avoid, or you may want to elaborate on. So let's go through a few of these examples, and then I'm going to each one of them to go into a little bit more detail about what they've experienced during the thousands of comps exams that they have sat in on. So for instance, program outcome number 2 states design, plans, and controls to create value through strategic, tactical, and operational change. So this is an example of what you would put for program outcome 2. For OMGT 5623 for strategic management, create strategic growth and development plan for blank, whatever your situation is. Director was impressed and considered the plan, created a maintenance efficiency tracker for blank, which drove a 10% improvement for overall plant uptime. Okay. Um, for OMGT 5873, Organizing for Change, I designed, planned to change blank for blank, participated in numerous systems optimization sessions, and presented for implementation on company-wide scale. Okay. So again, this is just keep it brief, but be concise, and please try to think how this is relating to your current position or experience. So example number 2, program outcome number 3. This states design plans and controls to lead and manage multidisciplinary projects. I can't say that word today. So you would put, for example, OMGT 5783 for project management. I learned about the human relationship aspects of project management. Okay. For OMGT 5873 for this program outcome and organizing for change, presentation on modifying the organization's recruitment slash retention. And for advanced project management, OMGT 5983, I learned procedures for developing troubled project recovery plan. Okay. So for our last example, program outcome number 5 that states use quantitative techniques and models to analyze data to support decision making. So you would put for intro to operations management, OMGT 5003, used quantitative analyses to tools to make reliable decisions for planning and scheduling of project timeline. And for OMGT 5123, finance for operations managers, analyzes of capital budget during group project. And then for maintenance management, under elective, OMGT 503, used knowledge learned of different maintenance approaches to increase reliability and capacity of operation systems. Okay, so those are just a few that can get you started, to get you thinking. And what I try to tell students when they are coming in to the program, I try to say, throughout your experience, depending on how fast you want to finish the program, remember that at the end of this experience, you will have to reflect on your time in the program and the classes and the concepts. So start now kind of building just a basic outline of maybe stuff that really resonates with you or you actually did implement at work, and start jotting those down. It's kind of like, you constantly have to keep updating your resume because you kind of forget all the things that you do. And then when it does come time to update it, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to think of everything that I've done. Same thing with it, kind of build on it and keep track or a journal or something. If you are not yet going to take the comp exam, then start building that. And then if you are getting ready to take it and have already scheduled your exam, start to reflect on what you've learned and start jotting things down, because just like many many drafts of a paper or a brief or something, every time you go back and read it, you think of something else, or it jogs your memory. So it's always a good idea to do that. So right now I'm going to ask maybe Carol and Leonard to come on board and see if they have any further advice or details that they would like to expand on as far as what they've witnessed during the comp exams when students are going through those program outcomes. Um,
Okay.
Hi,
Um,
Carol.
one thing I want to add is, well, a lot of students ask what our pass rate is. We have a very high pass rate. I would say that our pass rate is about 99 to 98%. We do have students who have to retake the oral portion. And let me give you two examples of things that, or maybe one example of a student who did not pass their comp exam. So this was probably last year, the year before, but we had a student who came into their oral comp portion. We look at everyone's grades beforehand, review their video and their PowerPoint. This student had straight A's, so 4.0 on all of their classes, and we were expecting an easy comprehensive exam. And so, an easy one for us as instructors are, we ask the question, they get it, we they give us an example, they relate it to a job project, or and so we know that they've internalized it, and that's easy for us. We just go on to the next question. Well, this student could not answer very basic questions. And just like Karin said, we don't try to stump students. We want to ensure that all students understand the basics from every class. And so we will use terms from the class. We won't, you know, throw you a curveball. But we do want students to understand the basic use of the terms that are used in the books and the class, and answer very basic questions. This student could not answer any of our questions, and we I'm sure we cut the comp exam short, probably to like 10 minutes after we figured out he just did not study. Yes, he could get through classes with A grades, but um, he just could not answer any of our questions. And from that, we learned we've we've done so many hundreds. We do hundreds each year that um, we know that if students can't answer questions at the beginning, then we know that they have not put any time into studying. And it does require some studying to review your classes. Karin mentioned, using a journal or saving your notes, and that is very important to do throughout your program because many students sell their textbooks. And we understand you sell your textbooks so you can get money back, and that's great. Now we're doing inclusive access and e-textbooks so that reduce the cost of books. But in the past, if you get like you buy a hard copy and you sell it, we understand that, but you need to keep your notes and um, figure out what you want to say or present in your comp exam for that particular class and that particular program out. Karin mentioned also that you need to um, if something is in your video or PowerPoint, you need to understand that um, we will ask you about it. There's a chance we will ask you about something that you put in your video or PowerPoint. So if you put it in your PowerPoint and you even mention it in your video, there is a chance that we will ask you about it. So here's an example. I had a student who was in my finance class, and he put in his PowerPoint one specific assignment, and it was about financial ethics or ethics in the financial world. And I know I'm the only one out of all of our finance instructors who um, who taught that specific um, or mentioned that specific thing. So I knew he was in my class, and he put it on his PowerPoint. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask him about it because obviously he's reviewed it, and I want him to look good in front of the other two instructors. And that was my only reason why I brought it up, because I wanted him to look good in front of the other two instructors on the comp panel. I brought it up. He could not go into any detail about the assignment or what we talked about. So instead of looking good, I basically made him look bad, and I didn't mean to. I just thought, well, if he's going to put it on his PowerPoint, he obviously reviewed it, and he could talk about it, but he didn't, so he looked bad. He passed, but again, it is important that if you put it in your PowerPoint or video, make sure that you can talk about it. So it's always easiest to relate it to something that is familiar with you, and so a lot of students relate a concept to like a work assignment. And so when we ask about it, all they have to talk about is work, and they know their work inside and out. So it's easy to answer the questions. So um, do that. The examples that Karin gave you under, like right now, you're looking at program outcome number 5, those are very general. If I were to see that, I would say, um, like under intro to operations management, used quantitative and quantitative tools. I would I would ask specifically what quantitative tools did you use, and then the student can say, oh, we use such and such and such and such, or I use this at work and whatnot. So um, again, these are very general examples, but if you use something very general, we'll probably ask you more detailed questions. So the more detailed you can make it, and like putting an example, like I use such and such concept and such tool, and to measure such and such at work. That would be very helpful. But that's all I have.
Okay, well, great, Carol. Thank you so much. So, Leonard, before we get to any comments that you may have, I'm looking at the poll that we've taken, and we've got about 25 students who've answered our poll at the bottom, and 10 of those are taking it this fall. 9 will be taking it in the spring, and we've got 6 that aren't going to be taking it for at least another 9 months. So, do you have any specific advice for those who are just now starting the comp exam that are going to be taking it this fall into prep? Do you have any advice as far as what they can do now, because we've told the other folks that aren't taking it maybe at a later date, here's how you plan, let's keep a journal, start jogging down the concepts that really relate to you most, and here's the advice about the textbooks, but what do you have for folks for this semester?
Well, I think all I can do is to reiterate things that you guys have already covered, and that is relate course tools, techniques, concepts, ideally back to work. But if you don't have a work experience, talk about things that were utilized to reinforce or learn those concepts in the courses, things like cases, okay? Use those and be able to talk about those. Now, what I like to see is that students take away tools, techniques, concepts that create value for them at their work. So it is great if they can relate these things back to work, but it's not always possible. If a student is able to utilize something from their course in their work, it creates value in two ways. Number one, it creates value for their organization, and it also creates value for them, which hopefully provides an upward path through their corporate structure in terms of promotion. Or it may also be possible that they move sideways, maybe to another organization that where they can apply things that they've learned in the program. So it's, and I will also just say, I realize we're on a time schedule, and once I get to talking, I may not stop. But I will provide some insight into how I prepare for these comprehensive exam sessions, these 20-minute sessions. Students go through and do their videos. I have access, they send their PDF of their transcript. So when I'm watching the videos, I'm, I, I typically ask questions from courses that I teach. Not always, but it includes things like finance, economic decision making, project management courses. So as I look at the videos, I have their PowerPoint slides out in front of me, and I make notes. Okay, I'm taking notes on what was said, what's on the PowerPoint slides, and that is generally how I develop questions. I will ask about something that they mentioned or included on their PowerPoint slides, and the questions typically will delve into how well do they understand the concept, can they talk about the concept, why is the concept important, and how does it create. Now, with all that being said, I'm very happy to answer any questions. But before I turn things off here on my end, I want to thank Karen and also Carol for providing all this information to the students. And one more thing, congratulations, I guess, to all the students as they progress through the curriculum. That's all for me. Sorry it takes so long.
No, that's fine, Leonard. We really enjoy you coming on board today because, like Carol had said in a previous session, she said I've probably sat on hundreds, and then she kind of corrected herself, and I think I've sat in on like 1,000 comp exams, and so you've pretty much seen and heard it all. And so you're you're invaluable to this process. So we thank you for jumping in that way. So I do want to just reiterate this session is being recorded. We've got two advisors on with us today, Lisa and Marge. So again, ladies, thanks for joining us. This will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel so you can go back and view it as many times as you would like. I will also provide to your advisor the PDF to this presentation so you have it in case you need to refer back to. So I just wanted to get that out there. So we're going to be wrapping up here. Start thinking about your questions, but here's some true and false that Carol and I kind of came up with. It's basically from feedback that I've gotten from students. So the first one is you have to have all your courses completed before you can apply for the comp exam. This is false. Okay, you have to have 8 out of the 10 required for the program, but this does include all 4 core courses. Remember that. So if you are finishing up your 8th course for this 8-week one term and you want to apply to take your comp exam this fall because maybe you're not taking a course and you can concentrate on getting it ready, you can completely do that. Please work with your advisor. They will review your degree audit, your GPA, and where you're at in the program, and all that. So, but no, you do not have to have all 10 completed before you apply for the comp exam. So the second one is the committee is dedicated to making the comp exam a positive experience for each student to express what they have learned in the program. This is completely true. I have to kind of chuckle because I get students calling me all the time saying, I am so nervous, I'm shaking. And I have to, talk them down off of a ledge. And I tell them, I'm like, please, I'm like, you're going to get in there and you are going to love talking to the committee because they want to hear from you. And I think Leonard and Carol can probably both contest to that, to where they're excited to get to ask you the questions. They want to know what you're doing now and what you plan on doing and how you're going to use it. And that helps us grow as well. So it is such a positive experience, and it's um it's kind of funny, not in a comical way or making fun of anybody, but you can always tell when the student is done. It's like they just take this huge deep breath and let it out, like, oh my gosh, I survived it. And so it's but it really is, it's a great experience. And all the work is going to be in on your end with the presentation and video. And so it's literally just a conversation among friends, and I think all the committee members can kind of agree to that. So the next one, you have to have all your core courses complete before you apply for the exam. I just said that. That is true. You have to have all 4 core, which is your intro to ops, your project management, either finance or economic decision making, and then strategic management. Those all have to be completed. Um, most students pass. This is true. And Carol just said that. There is going to be maybe the 1% who didn't follow directions on the video or didn't come to the exam, scheduled it and didn't come. There may be somebody who didn't prepare as much and kind of did get caught in the act, as Carol gave that example earlier. But from what she has told me, 99% have have passed. So the last one, you will be asked to solve financial equations. I can't imagine doing this, but no, that is, we are not going to make you solve any financial equations. You won't be doing any sort of, no one will be writing on the whiteboard or anything like that. So, okay. So we wanted to keep this short because we really want you to have a chance to ask your questions. So if you have questions, you need to hop off, or you don't want to hang around, you don't have time, I get it. Everybody's day is really busy. Email your advisor first, okay? We want to thank everybody for attending today. So if you need to jump off, this is the end of the presentation, but we are going to stay on as long as you have questions, okay? So let's see, Lisa has a question. So Carol and Leonard, I'm going to have you turn your mics on. Lisa asks, can questions come from outside the student video presentation?
I'll be happy to fill that one, and maybe Carol can provide additional information. The answer is yes, but it's infrequent is how I would describe that. Karin mentioned the 4 required core courses, and so as you are preparing your video PowerPoint slides, they are organized by program outcomes, and if you don't hit on say one of those core courses, typically one of the panel members will notice that and they will address it typically with a question or two. And also, I've noticed recently that some panel members were very interested on how external things affect the workplace. We can easily come up with an example in the effects of COVID-19 and how employers, organizations are taking steps to deal with the devastating effects of COVID-19 in the workplace, and maybe talk about things like resilience, adaptability, and those type things. But these are all concepts that would have been picked up in one or more of your courses. That's all
Okay,
for me.
great. Thank you, Leonard. We have Marge Pash who's on the line. She's got a question, and then we'll get to a couple student questions here. But Marge is asking, if a student doesn't pass for the first time, do they get to take the exam again? And if so, will it be the entire exam, including the video presentation?
And I'll answer that question. The student does not have to redo their video presentation, but if they don't pass their oral portion, they will have another opportunity for the oral portion.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Megan's on here. She's asking, what kind of examples should we talk about if some certain concepts don't exactly apply to our specific job roles at work? Talk about how we look forward to applying it to future positions. What are the committees looking for in this type of situation?
I can answer that. Yes, if you um, don't have certain concepts that apply to your specific job roles currently, you could talk about how it can in like a future position you're looking at, or you can apply it to um, your course projects, course assignments. Um, so, because we have students who may not be working right now or may not have a job that relates to specific program outcomes or courses. So they could relate it to their course uh, course coursework and projects and
Leonard, do you have anything to add for Megan about how the concepts, if they don't exactly apply now, can she, you know, broadcast in the, forecast in the future or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that actually Megan kind of provided the answer to the question, and that is if you don't use course, tools, techniques, concepts in your current job, you can talk about those in terms of future positions, or maybe you've observed some of these items. Leadership comes to mind, and there's several leadership approaches, and sometimes students will talk about maybe in a good way, I'm going to say just in a good way, what they've observed from their superiors there at work. And the another option is cases that are used, uh, coursework. Maybe they've done some type of case analysis, or maybe analysis relating to work. They can use those and talk about those in the comp session.
Okay, perfect. And this is a scheduling question from Haley. She asked, how much time after you apply for the comp exam do you have to turn in your video presentation? Carol, I'll let you handle that one.
I would say turn it in as soon as possible, just so you have more um, time slots to choose from. The later you submit everything for your comp exam, the later in the semester that you wait, the less time slots are available for the oral portion. So I would suggest, go ahead and if you qualify for it, apply and submit everything as early as possible. Um, it helps us on the administrative side, because if students wait, then we may not have a time slot available for them, and then they would have to postpone graduation if they cannot get comp exam done this semester. So it helps everyone involved if you complete your comp exam as early as possible in the semester. But there's no actual time limit. It's just if we have slots available for your oral portion.
Great. Thank you for that, Carol. Um, we've got a couple more questions coming in. Is the presentation words only on PowerPoint, or do we add screenshots as examples directly related to the program outcome?
I've seen graphs. I've seen screenshots. Yes, I mean, students have been very creative in how they do their presentation. But if it's just words, that is completely fine. It is great. But, we've had some very creative presentations in the past, so it's not limited. I've seen all sorts of things, and we accept them all as long as they relate to you have all the requirements of the presentation and in however you're presenting.
Great. Thank you for that, Carol. And Spencer asked, what time do the comp exams take place? So I don't know the answer to this. Has there been any comp exams taken outside of the time frame between 8 and 5 of a workday?
Not in recent years. Usually, I think for this semester we've planned most of the dates on Tuesdays or Thursdays. Um, Usually in the morning. Like it just varies, but we'll say we'll have like Tuesday morning time slots and Thursday afternoon time slots. As we go later in the semester, we'll have full day of comp exams just because we have a lot of students who
Right. And Lisa, one of our advisors, points out, because every time I do one of these info sessions, I always have my East Coast people jump on too early and then they're panicking why I didn't start the session. So because we're located in Fayetteville, Arkansas, we are in Central Time. And so that is when we schedule everything. So please make sure if you are outside of the Central Time zone, that you do pay attention when scheduling, because I do have that every time my East Coast people forget that that we're on a different time. Um, so let's see. We have one more question. We have, are we live? Are we on live video? So the presentation obviously is going to be recorded and uploaded into Blackboard, and then it would be similar to a Zoom meeting that you would have, where you would have, yes, you would be live interacting one-on-one. Carol, do you or Leonard, do you have anything to add?
No, no,
uh,
no, you're exactly right. The 20-minute comp session is live using Blackboard Collaborate, I think is what we're using right now. So it is live.
Okay, great. And Haley's
and
got one more. Oh, go ahead, Carol.
And yeah, and one other thing, we do like seeing students' faces, so we ask that check your microphone and webcam beforehand to ensure they work. We have a few each semester where um, they just didn't know they had to do the webcam, but we like to see everyone's faces um, on the live oral portion.
And I think I hope this goes without saying, but I will go ahead and say it anyway. We've learned a lot this year going virtual, but please treat this as you would be in a business meeting. So, um, we don't want you to roll out of bed and come to the comp exam. So treat it like you would be going to class, or treat it like you would be going to any meeting. Haley, when is the deadline to apply for the spring 2021 comp exam? Haley, we set the dates per semester. And so right now we've got the dates set for the fall semester. So those dates will be made available probably the first week of the spring semester in January. And those will, of course, be sent out via your advisor as a reminder of, here's the dates, let's start planning. Are you going to take it in 8-week 1 or 8-week 2, or when are you going to be ready? So the dates for that semester are set usually the first week of school. Well, you're very welcome. Does anyone have any other questions? We we are here to answer everything, from how it could or relate to your job if you are currently not employed. Do you have any, questions about how do I relate it if I'm not working, or maybe I'm not working in a field that this relates to? We will answer those specific questions because I'm sure if you have that question, there's at least one other person on here, or probably a dozen more that'll be watching this recording that are going to have the same ones. Are there summer comps? Yes, there are summer comps. We only have one 8-week session in the summer, which begins in May. So it is a very limited time that you have to get it in. Once, and Carol, you can maybe follow up with further details, but I do believe that once the session ends in July, do you have many comps after the session has ended in the summer?
No, we don't. We have to complete all of the like graduation requirements by a certain date in August. So after that date, we don't have any more summer comps. And you, of course, usually students wait until their last semester right before they graduate to do their comp exam. So we want to make sure that they can complete it and then graduate for that specific term.
Okay, great. Spencer, yeah, I get this question all the time, especially if we're telling folks that you need to plan early. So Spencer's question, and I'm reading all of these chats, by the way, because we do have several callers in on their phone, and I'm not sure if they can see these or be able to comment. So before I get to Spencer's question, anybody who is listening and calling in instead of joining via the Blackboard link on a computer, any questions you have, please email your advisor, and they will be happy to get that information to you. So Spencer's asking, the presentation and video requirements are on Blackboard. Yes. I would like to take the comp exam early in spring 8-week 1 of 21. Is there a way to begin working on the presentation prior to applying for the exam? Leonard, what would you say to Spencer?
Well, I don't. I have my thoughts are this is a kind of an administrative question, and I'm not the expert there. So Spencer, I can provide an answer, but one that may not be reliable. But the answer is yes. Yes, you can start. I don't know when a student have access to this Blackboard comprehensive exam shell, because you will need the program outcomes, which I know they are there in that Blackboard comprehensive exam shell, as well as instructions. So my thought is, when do students have access to this Blackboard oral comprehensive exam shell?
Yeah, and that's a great point, Leonard. So thank you. And yes, this is more of an administrative question. And Lisa Milligan, who's the coordinator, also an advisor, she has posted that in the on the operations management website, if you look under comp exam, there are going to be documents that are going to help guide you. Again, this is also a great way to connect with your advisor. They can provide you a sample PowerPoint that we have ready that we give out to students. We also have the instructions and tips and things like that. So work specifically with your advisor and reach out to them to see if you can acquire that ahead of time, and then of course start working on it. But we do have a sample PowerPoint that we do provide students. And Carol, is there anything you would like to add to that?
Just, you can work on your PowerPoint and then work on your actual video presentation, but not actually record it. You just make sure that it's between 8 and 10 minutes long. And then once the Blackboard course comes available at the very beginning of the semester, then you could upload your PowerPoint and then record your video. But the reason why we wait until the very beginning of the semester is we need to nail down our comp dates, and it's just with 7 instructors trying to nail down dates where at least 3 of us are available you know is difficult. So that's why we just wait until everyone knows their schedule for the semester um, to release the create the prompt exam course and release for that semester.
Yes, very much. Thank you, Carol, for that clarification. So, this was wonderful questions. This was a great session. I'm glad we had 34 students sign up for this. This is fantastic. Um, we're trying to get the word out there about how great of an experience this is and how much we all learn from each other during this experience, with your presentation and with our questions. So we really thank every one of you for attending today. We will stay on maybe another minute or so if you have another question. I want to personally thank Leonard Nethercutt, Carol Altum. Thank you very much for all of your participation in this and clarification. This was very useful information for all of us. And you're welcome for putting this together. Yeah, well, I think it's really helped, and we actually had over 65 students sign up, and so I bet a lot of people maybe weren't able to make it or got tied up at work. I know I've been getting emails during this session that my students signed up and ended up not attending today. So this will be recorded for advisors to send out. And I will also include the PowerPoint just as a reference guide. And then please work with your advisor on obtaining maybe that sample PowerPoint, maybe understanding some of the 10 program outcomes so you can start working on this and be prepared. So again, thank you everyone. I hope you have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week, and we'll look forward to you joining our next session. Thank you.